Good day. Welcome to the Trendy Place. This is the Trend Podcast with Justin A.Williams, and I'm here to bring you content from all across the spectrum. Today is no different. Today I have the great Pat Benjamin on today, and we are going to talk about his magazine, the R Report. We're also going to talk about his long legacy in music and music in general. We're going to talk about Black artists that are coming out in different genres today. We're going to talk about the evolution of hip-hop and more, so stay tuned. All right, so how's it going, Pat?
I'm doing okay. How about yourself?
Doing great. You know, it's a Sunday. It's nice outside. I'm supposed to see a concert later, so I'm excited about that. Living Color.
Okay.
If I can get to it. So that's going to be pretty dope. So let's get right into it. So tell me a little bit about yourself and the R Report.
Well, man, I'm from South Georgia. Born and raised here. I'm like 4 hours from Atlanta, but born and raised here, man. Pretty much been into music my whole life, like just the sound, the excitement of just being around it, which led me to get into music myself. And the R Report pretty much was started because at the time I was managing artists, and you had certain artists that had the city on lock. And I used to hear other artists complain like, man, we can't go to this club because Young Squad, you got to be cool with them, or you got to be cool with Jimmy, or you got to be cool with G Splash. I used to hear a lot of artists complain. So I'm like, man, well, what can I do to help the artists in my area, like just elevate? So I really just researched it in the beginning, like just researched it. Like, I want to start a magazine. And for about a year, I just marketed the name, the R Report. I did a lot of interviews on a blog. I was blogging off my homeboy, Jimmy, from 258. I was blogging off his website, but it just began to grow. I ended up getting my own domain, and we began to do a lot of interviews with a lot of the Freestyle Friday 106 and Park champs. I did a lot of interviews like Poster Boy, Young Nutt, Sonny, Blind Fury. Like, I interviewed all of them, and it just began to grow. Then Murphy Lee, Lil White from 3-6 Mafia, and at that time, when I interviewed DJ Kid Capri, which was my biggest interview at that time, it began to evolve. And somebody gave me the idea, like, man, you might want to start printing. So in 2014, we began to print locally, and I did it for years. Up until 2020, I was able to secure a distributor to have my title in the Books a Million newsstands. Then COVID came, so it really pushed everything back for 2021. So every quarter, we printing on a nationwide level now.
Wow, that's an amazing story. I love 106 and Park. I loved listening to Blind Fury specifically. I remember him. He took over for a long time.
Yeah, he was bad. He was bad.
Yeah, he took down the summer, man. And then I remember Poster Boy as well, because I remember he was in the if I can remember, he was in the not We Ready. He was in a video with Jadakiss, Cameron. It was a remix of a song. So I remember that. All these artists speak to me from when I was much younger. That's really awesome. Little White too. I remember when he got on with 3-6 Mafia and when they had the Hustle and Flow album.
Right,
and all that
right.
Stuff. That's crazy, man. You know, so a part of this podcast is a subsidiary of a larger magazine company. My mother started the second Black-owned magazine in New York. So, you know, my whole life has been around hip hop as well.
Okay.
And just for you to start that magazine and start bridging the gap between artists, you know, because that's what we want in the industry, right? We want peace. We want people to be able to get on when they can, and we want people to lend a helping hand. We don't want crabs in a barrel. We don't want that.
Right.
You know, if Murphy Lee can get on, I mean, that's what hip hop was so much for so much of its history, especially in the early 2000s, where everybody had a crew, right? Like, Lil Wayne would come out, and then Cash Money, and then you'd have Ludacris would come out. Ludacris would come out, and he'd have his own So Def Squad, you know, and everybody was kind of helping each other.
I think during that time, I want me being from the South. I always been big on East Coast music, like
Mm-hmm.
going back into that whole bad boy era, and then the Wu-Tang era. I was a big Wu-Tang fan. With just a few of us that was into the Wu music, like to the New York
Yeah.
music down here being down south. But I always been big. But like at the time, Cam Run always been one of my favorite artists. Him and Nas always
Mm-hmm.
been. I like that whole diplomat movement to see how it
Mm-hmm.
had evolved. Like, I was a big Dipset fan.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Dipset is legit around here. We still Jim Jones is still always in Harlem, and
Right,
so it's cool. And Cameron now has his own show. It's cool to see how hip hop is. A lot of hip hop artists are parlaying their fame and success into other
right,
industries, and
right,
really growing up. I mean, a lot of them, even though some of them are still making music, a lot of them are like, they do independent work. They do it on
right,
their own, and then they sell it to get bigger companies, get the money that I think is pretty inspiring. I mean, being entrepreneurs and being
right,
in business. I mean, I think that's always the hope, right? You want to, as they say in like the mob movies, you want to go legit, right?
right,
You want to
right,
have like multiple streams of income, and I think that's a value that is distinct in hip hop. Is that hustler's mentality? That mentality that $1 is not enough,
right,
$10 is not enough, and it's not even about the money. It's about respect. It's about how you position yourself and all those other things. So
right.
that's a really cool what's happening. How far back do you go in hip hop in terms of being a fan? Like, do you remember? Do you like the early '90s? Do you like Chuck D? Do you like the
Man,
'80s stuff?
I go back to like the late '80s. Like
Okay.
LL used to be one of my favorite artists.
Yes.
LL, I like the EPMD. Of course, Run DMC.
Hmm.
Like I love them. Like LL was pretty much my favorite artist back then.
That's amazing. My cousin is really close friends with his wife.
Okay,
So I've been LL Cool J has been a big inspiration to me. My dad used to teach high school in Hollis, Queens, because he's from Hollis. And he remembers back in the late 70s, early 80s when they were setting up their boom boxes and setting up their
right,
DJ booths outside in the park, right outside the high school to do like a block party or something like that. And at the time, he was like, I don't know what this is, right? I mean, I think with hip hop, nobody could have anticipated how big it would get.
right,
But I don't know if you've seen these on YouTube, but there's video of old like 1920s African American men in the South breakdancing, because a lot of African Americans came from West Africa, where they had capoeira. They had that martial art where you're dancing and moving,
right,
and that led itself. They had to disguise that in slavery, so they had to make it look like a dance.
right,
So a lot of that, what you see in these videos from like 1925, 1930, is black men basically breakdancing. And you would have I mean, this is way before anything that happened in
right,
the Bronx or anything like that. And then you have video of basically scatting music, which is like rap music. So it's just incredible, I think, to put hip hop in your life in a way where it's positive, it's growing, it's entrepreneurial, like you
right,
have, and making this magazine that you have. I mean, the R Report is something that is not only legendary in the South, but I mean, we honor it because it's an anthology, right? It's the history that of hip hop. It's no different than a textbook,
right,
right? We grow up in school, we learn the history of European societies, and we learn a little bit about African societies,
right.
and China, and we're supposed to learn all this world history about Rome and stuff. But what about the history in America that is deep in its roots?
Yes, yes,
And that's what the
absolutely.
R Report, that's what that represents. That's really cool, man. What do you got any stories, man, from the road? Any stories that are humorous? Any stories that people would want to hear about your days just starting out? I mean, like there had to be some stories where it was like, I can't believe this happened.
I mean, when I did when I did Murphy Lee, the excitement was there, like, cause just seeing them on 106 or seeing them on BT or MTV, that was excited by itself. But like DJ Kid Capri, I was so excited, and he heard the excitement and nervousness in my voice. He was like, he just told me like, just take your time, So I was able to take my time and conduct that interview, and it was the same with Corrupt from the Dog Pound. Like, me and him, when I did his interview, man, we was on the phone, I know, over 2 hours, and just hearing his story was so unique by itself. I was like, man, you need to do a movie. I straight up told him, man, you need to do a movie because you was a part of history, hip hop history. Like, you was there you was pretty much involved in the East West Coast whole beef. You was involved in it. He told me about when they was in New York, and I think Biggie got on the radio, say, I can't believe y'all let Tupac and the Dog Pound shoot a video. He said it wasn't even Pop went with him. It was him and Snoop, Dash, and some more of the members of the Dog Pound, and say somebody came through and shot the trailer up. But he was a part of that. He was even in LA when Biggie passed away, because at the time he was with Foxy Brown. And he told me that whole story, how, he was pretty much in an uncomfortable situation when at the moment when Big got shot. He was at the hospital because he was like, everybody was looking at him like, why? Like, Lil C's looked at him like, why?
Yeah.
He was like, when, at the point, he didn't have nothing to do with that. But hearing his story and everything he done been through, the saga he done been through with Suge, in which he didn't never really speak bad about Suge Knight. Like, I will say that. He didn't speak bad about Suge, but hearing his story by itself was unique. Very unique. The same with Cricket Eye, King Cricket, hearing his story. No, he was there he was part of Death Row. He was there when Suge was rebuilding the new Death Row. And just hearing his stories, and just him being a part of the whole slaughterhouse with Eminem, hearing his story, that was unique by itself. And even with Uncle Ralph McDaniels, like, just hearing his story. Now, he got some stories. And, he gave me my flowers. And I appreciated that conversation me and him had, because he told me to keep going. Like, keep going, because what I'm doing is important to hip hop. Like, the interviews I did, I don't did like the Corrupts or the Keith Murrays. Like, Keith Murray, that was another interesting interview, hearing his story. So I just hearing everybody's story that I interview, I take everything in. And it's just good to just hear all that dialogue, even with Cocaine and 187, Code 187. Just hearing them, their story, being a part of Eazy-E Ruthless Records, and them being able to work with Eazy, to work with Suge, to work with Dre, Pop. They don't pretty much work with everybody on the West Coast. So I don't heard some very interesting stories, and it just, make me feel good to be able to have a platform, to get their stories heard.
Yeah, I mean, so much of the hip hop experience is storytelling. I mean, I think one of the things that people say today, at least some of the old heads when you're in the barbershop, is just kind of like, the storytelling element, that skill is lacking sometimes in some of the younger rappers. And then, when you listen to Slick Rick, or you listen to Dougie Fresh, or if you listen to Nas, if you listen to Jay-Z, if you like those artists, people always say they're very lyrical, right? But really what it is that they're telling you from the perspective of modern day poets, right? And every rapper, I think, my dad used to always say this all the time. He would say that, a lot of rappers, when that label is pushing them to have a certain kind of tough bravado kind of I can mess with anybody-ness, but deep down inside they're a real person, and they're a
Right.
person that wants to tell something that can be harsh, but that can be beautiful. They want to tell something from all across what we say here is the spectrum, right?
Right.
And that's what's so beautiful about especially hip hop. I think, when did the R Report start? What was the date?
I started in 2011.
And when was your first year managing artists?
Oh, 2008.
2008.
2007, 2008.
So that was like a rebirth of hip hop for a lot of people. I know that that's about when the Carter 3 came out.
Right.
That's about when Drake started coming out.
Wayne was
Kanye
big.
came out.
Wayne was big. During the time I was in it, Wayne was the biggest artist, and Wayne was big. That whole Lil Wayne wave was just heavy and crazy.
Yeah, it was a crazy time when he came out with that. And then Future really sets the stage for a lot of rappers coming out after him, because they all try to emulate him, that kind of Cottonmouth style, that flow,
that Future flow. And I tell a lot of artists down here, like, I don't talk to some music execs, and their whole thing is they want to hear something different from the South, because everybody trying to flow like Future, flow like the Migos. Right. So to hear record executives say that, and I'm telling artists like, man, you got to switch your style up, because that's what they be on. They try to emulate what's popular, what they think popular. I just tell them, be yourself, be original.
Be yourself. Yeah. It's kind of like, so my sister just met Dwayne The Rock Johnson, and I remember, I don't know if you watch his career or watched him when he was in the WWF,
right?
But I was a big wrestling fan, and when he first came out, like some rappers, the industry wanted him to be a certain way. They wanted him to smile all the time and be a good guy, and all of a sudden they said, "Look, we're about to drop you from us." But you have one chance to go be in the Nation of Domination, be a bad guy. Can you do it? And he was like, I just got to be myself. Right. I got to be authentic. And now he's one of the biggest successes in Hollywood.
And that's amazing, because that was really being with the Nation that birthed him as The Rock.
Yes, exactly.
As The Rock. And he just grew.
Right. Yeah. And it's getting, I love the Nation of Domination. Not only when I was a kid, I was really into like 70s Afrocentric kind of like black separatism kind of thing when I was in the 70s, when I was a kid. But I loved it because it was well done, like the music, the outfits, the characters that were in them. And then I think that's kind of like hip hop in a way, where what I think we need back is groups again.
Right.
We need collections of different, we need the roots again. We need, obviously, I know the Migos, there was the tragedy there, but we need EPMD. We need so many of these groups to come back and show us different styles on the record. Like Outkast or something like that. That's what I really miss in the game.
You got Outkast. There, I would love to see an Outkast reunion. I would even love to see a Diplomats reunion. Like, I want to see everybody. And State Property, I don't even think State Property got the proper push that they should have got. And everybody was inside State Property. Them boys had bars.
Yeah.
Every last one of them.
Really good. Yeah, I loved State Property when I was a kid, when I was a teenager. But I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm originally from Queens, and coming into Long Island, it was a lack of respect thing. Because I liked a lot of hip hop music, but to a lot of kids, I didn't really seem hip hop myself.
Okay.
Right. Because of because I'm trying to, I got to go to a private school, and I'm trying to fit in with what I think is going to get me into college. And, the whole demographic of hip hop shifts right when I get to college, where everybody's doing the button up thing. I don't know if you remember that, but everybody started wearing polo shirts and button up shirts and all that stuff. And I was like, oh, now see, you're making fun of me, but here we go. Now everybody's trying to do that thing, And I think what I love about black music now is there's enough space for different ways of expressing themselves, right? One of my favorite groups was the Far Side. I love the Fushnikins. I love the whole Jungle Brothers movement, Native Tongues when I was a kid. And I started listening to music when I was like 4 years old. I'm dating myself, but I also really loved, what's that group? They were, I'm going to look them up, but I liked a lot of hippie rap. I like a lot of that.
Okay.
And Kendrick Lamar, when he came out, Black Hippie, that was my jam, because I really said to myself, now we've got what used to be in hip hop, which was different genres within itself, coming back,
So like Lyricist Lounge.
Yes.
Yeah. I love Mos Def, Talib Kweli. Yeah.
Black Star,
Black Moon. Yeah.
Brand Nubians was really great. I mean, all that kind of like, they called it backpack rap. And I know it for me, it gave me the self-esteem I needed to be myself, right? And I think that's what the power of hip hop, right? Whatever you like. If you're interested in more hardcore stuff, if you're interested in more pop stuff, I mean, hip hop now speaks to beyond racial lines, beyond generational lines, right? I mean, hip hop is now turned 50, and if you want to say it's even older than that, and it's got people, my uncles who are in their 50s listen to hip hop, and now you've got younger kids in my family who listen to hip hop. 27,
and
right?
The hip hop 50th anniversary, I think that was great for a great look for hip hop, and a lot of the older school, they touring now just because of the whole hip hop 50 celebration. Like, I think that was real cool to for them to just get to the younger generation now, like the MC Shans and the KRS Ones and the Cool Hercs. I think that's dope.
Yeah, I mean all the old. If you just come out with one or two hits, you can tour forever, right? Because you can always come back on a 50th anniversary or 60th anniversary, as long as there's going to be an anniversary. And we celebrate anniversaries, like every 5 years?
Right.
Every 5 years, someone's going to bring you back, because people want to remember those feelings that they had when your song came out.
Right.
And I think what you've done with the R Report is, again, like, it's taking the history of people's words and quotes and stories, and you've anthologized them forever. That will live forever. I mean, it's on the internet. People will have them in their house. Different. Is it just digital or is it also distributed?
I do physical and digital. Like we print, we literally print every quarter. Every quarter. And it's just being able to be in one of my biggest accomplishments. I always wanted to be able to see my magazine on newsstands from the moment I started printing. That was a goal. Like, if I can just be able to see it beside XXL or The Source or Vibe, just to be able to see that. Now that I see that, man, it just make you feel good. Because a lot of people don't understand the process of putting a magazine together. Like, it's not easy.
Right. It's not easy.
It's not easy. The copy editing by itself is hard.
Yeah.
And it's time consuming.
And did you have anyone teach you how to do that? You did it yourself?
I had to learn how to do it myself.
Yeah.
Had to.
Yeah.
And like I tell people, like, it's not easy at all. It's not easy, but when you see that finished product on the newsstands, it just, oh man, that's just the best feeling in the world.
Right. So what's your message? What's the future of the R Report in the next coming years? And two, what's your message for other young people wanting to be like you, wanting to get into the magazine game or get into hip hop in some way? What's your advice for them?
Well, the future of it is like to continue to grow expand beyond, like bigger than I can ever see it expanding, like maybe internationally. Like
Mm-hmm.
that would be the next goal, to go internationally. Cause just seeing the views on the website and seeing the countries that, that one thing, like you love how technology don't have breaking down your analytics. So being
Yeah.
able to see you getting so many views in the US and in Russia and China and Japan and Guam, Singapore, Brazil. I'm like,
Wow.
oh my God. So just being able to just see that within itself and the work, and I don't put a lot of work in, like literally.
Yeah.
I put
Yeah.
a lot of work in. That's why I tell anybody time is of an essence. Can't never get your time back. I really don't like for nobody to waste my time, because time is something you can't get back.
Right.
But you got to be consistent. I tell everybody to be consistent in what you're doing. Like, I try to put something on the website every day. Every day. I try to put some type of content on there every day. And just
Mm-hmm.
being able to see the numbers and the unique hits, that's a blessing. Somebody reading
Yeah.
it. 'Cause I remember the time I wasn't getting but 50 views a week. But being able to
Right.
get 70, 80,000 views a month it's a blessing.
That's
Just
amazing.
you got to stay consistent. I tell anybody, if you want to start a magazine, do your research on it.
Right.
Be dedicated to it. Dedication and staying consistent. Stay consistent with anything you do, even if you're an inspiring producer, inspiring artist, inspiring DJ, whatever the case you do, you got to be dedicated and you got to stay consistent.
Well, I'm taking your message to heart right now because I have a podcast. We started this about 4 years ago, so it's going well. But we're definitely thinking of growing it. We just started adding video now, so you know, I believe what you're saying. It takes consistency, it takes hard work, and I think it takes the capacity to enjoy the struggle. My a close family friend of mine and my publisher said to me that you're gonna miss when you're successful, when you where you want to be, you're gonna miss these times. You're gonna
Right,
miss those times of when you were, you know, hustling for a dime or trying to get at least 50 views on something, let alone
right,
100
right,
views. Right. And you gotta, I think another thing too is you have to always have your standard, but you gotta calibrate that. You gotta say, you know what, I can't always just come out the gate and just get 1,000 views on something. But if
right.
I can if I can slowly build an audience that is actually engaged, doesn't matter if it's only 5 people, right? I mean, that's still
Absolutely.
that's still gonna boost your algorithm and all that stuff, and it's gonna boost your morale inside. You know, to know that you really impacted somebody.
You gotta like still like I grind like I'm still the underdog.
Hmm.
That's that, I grind like I'm still the underdog. It's like this is my first issue coming up. That's how I'm grinding.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean that's the mentality you got to take, and I think that's a dogged mentality that comes through from any artist that you listen to in hip hop. I don't think there's one artist, regardless of how corny they may have been, it could have been
Right,
even Vanilla Ice, right? They all have a story. They all have a reason why they did it, and if you really read stuff like the R Report and really get into the stories behind anybody, you'll start to like them, even if you don't like their music. You're gonna like them because you're gonna hear the same thing over and over again, which is that they had to work hard
right.
to get even to be the person that you hate, even to be the song that you don't want to hear anymore. It's a hit because they worked
They
hard, not
worked hard.
because
They work
someone just
hard. Well, hey, we
made that.
might not like it, but they got a whole nother fan base that's streaming it.
Right, right, right. My last question to you is so what other genres are you considering covering other genres too
Yeah,
as
yes,
more?
yes. I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, because for the simple fact is, in the past I have had other genres like even say they wanted to reach out to me,
Mhm.
but I think it's like I thought it was just a rap publication. No, it's a music publication. That's why I'm switching how I promote it. I've been doing that for, I know, well over a year now. I switch how I promote. We do music. It can be R&B soul, southern soul, EDM, rock. Because I have interviewed a rock artist before. Country. Mm-hmm. I don't interview when you were saying country, I have interviewed a black country artist in the previous issue of the R Report.
Oh, great. Awesome.
And to see her being able to be featured on Beyonce country album, I'm like, hold on.
Was this Tanner Adele?
Rena Roberts.
Rena Roberts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love her. I love her music.
And just to be able to, and I'm just learning, like literally like a week ago, I learned she was on Beyonce.
Yeah, she was with Beyonce.
I'm like, wait, I interviewed her. Her earlier this year. So that made me feel good. Like I interviewed her and she's working with Beyonce now. You know, so yes, like we do all genders of music. All genders.
That's amazing, man. Well, I hope Sandra or somehow I can get a nice copy, maybe autographed by you.
Yeah, we definitely
that would be
definitely. I would make
that'd be legit, man. I'll frame that. But I'm so glad that you came on the podcast today. It's been a really wonderful
thank you
time
for
talking to you about music, and your history and just your power, your legacy. I mean, it comes through that you're confident, but also just a magnanimous guy that has done a world of good for a lot of people. So thank you. That's what we like to have on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Sure, of course. So that's the podcast for today. Remember, like, share, subscribe. This is the trendy place. Also, go out and cop my new book. It's Reborn Virtues Constellation. It's on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, wherever you can buy books online. And do you have any last words for my audience, Pat?
Oh, man, I just want to give a shout out to everybody that support the R Report, man. Like I said, you know, just always stay dedicated, stay consistent, you know. Keep God first, too. That's the most important thing. Keep God first.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. All right. Well, thank you. But remember, trenders, we're better at trend together. We'll see you next time.